Hey kids, welcome to another Mr. Parker's Bedtime Stories. We are at Friday, another week of strange times. I've been in school this week and it's been great to be in there, although a bit rubbish today with the weather, so we couldn't get out as much. But yeah, a great week. Just been able to teach and have some fun, play lots of dodgeball, as well as doing some work. And it's just been nice to be a teacher who's actually teaching again. I've certainly missed that, and I can't wait to see more of you guys in a couple of weeks' time, as well in the last week before summer. We are carrying on our wonderful series of My Little Miss World by Roger Hargreaves, and we're on someone tonight, as I said last night, who always wants their own way. So maybe not a nice person, but maybe they'll change. Let's see. Maybe they need to meet Mr. Happy. Let's see. So it is Little Miss Stubborn. So let's see what she gets up to and if she'll change her ways. Little Miss Stubborn was, as you might imagine, extraordinarily stubborn. Once she'd made up her mind, there was no unmaking it. If she decided to go out, she went out, even when it was pouring with rain. Like today. I don't think I'd be out in that today. One Sunday when it wasn't raining, she decided to take the bus to Mr. Strong's house. Why? Because she had run out of eggs. And as everybody knows, Mr. Strong always has lots of eggs. As the bus arrived, Mr. Nosey walked by. Being nosy, he couldn't help asking, "Where are you going, Little Miss Stubborn?" "To Mr. Strong's house," she said, "but this bus doesn't go anywhere near there." But Little Miss Stubborn took the bus anyway, and you won't be surprised to hear that it didn't go anywhere near Mr. Strong's house. It went to Cold Land, a country where it is so cold everybody has a cold all year round. "What a charming place," she said, shivering and trying to look as if she had been planning on coming to Cold Land in the first place, which of course she hadn't, as you know. She ran along the path to keep warm. "A tissue!" Somebody sneezed all of a sudden. It was Mr. Sneeze. "If I were you," he warned, "I wouldn't take a tissue that path. It's icy. A tissue!" "I'll take it if I want to," snorted Little Miss Stubborn, and she followed the path. But can you guess what happened? I think you could. Whoosh! She took the path and slipped on the ice. So at least it's the first time it's got her arms uncrossed. Although I don't think it's going to be a fun ride down that hill. "That was fun," said Little Miss Stubborn, but of course it wasn't. She came to a fork in the path. "I shall go this way," she said, taking the right-hand path. Hopefully it's not more ice for her. "You're making a big mistake," said the worm, popping his head through the snow. "This way isn't safe." "Don't be silly," cried Little Miss Stubborn, and started off down the path. She should have listened to the worm. Love his scarf. It's like multicoloured for the NHS. Before she had gone very far, an avalanche of snowballs fell on top of her. Oh no. One of the snowballs rolled off the path and rolled down a very steep hill. And inside it, Little Miss Stubborn rolled and rolled down the very steep hill as well. Oh dear, it's just getting worse and worse. I can't believe she's not in hospital by now. The snowball rolled a very long way, all the way into a different country where it melted. As luck would have it, Little Miss Stubborn found herself outside Mr. Strong's front door. She was soaked to the skin. That's one impressive rolling. Maybe it's got sat-nav to get to Mr. Strong's house. "My goodness, you're wet through," said Mr. Strong. "Quick, come in and dry yourself before you catch a cold." "I don't catch colds," said Little Miss Stubborn. "Anyway, I've come for some eggs. Out of my way." "That's no way to behave," said Mr. Strong. "Rubbish," snorted Little Miss Stubborn. She's not very nice, is she? Still wet through, she marched into Mr. Strong's kitchen. Without a please or a thank you, she helped herself to a large bowl of eggs. You could at least ask," said Mr. Strong. "A tissue!" sneezed Little Miss Stubborn. "I told you you'd catch a cold," said Mr. Strong. "I don't catch colds," said Little Miss Stubborn, and sneezed again. "A tissue!" That's a lot of eggs for one person, don't you think? She was so hungry by this time that there and then she made herself an enormous omelette. It was gigantic. It was so big that it won't even fit on the page. Wow. Maybe she's been taking lessons from Little Miss Greedy, or Mr. Greedy. Then she began to eat her enormous gigantic omelette, and the more she ate, the more worried Mr. Strong became. "You'll make yourself ill," he said. "Fiddlesticks," snorted Little Miss Stubborn, and because she was who she was, she finished that enormous gigantic omelette. She's not got the stomach of Mr. Greedy or Little Miss Greedy, has she though? And there is not much more to add, other than you know how extraordinarily stubborn Little Miss Stubborn is. Stubborn to the very end of this story. Oh dear, hope that doesn't mean she died. Anyway, there is Little Miss Stubborn, who, for once, normally the Mr. Men learn about changing their ways, don't they? But she didn't change, and what a bad effect that might have had on her. Anyway, on to Monday's story. Someone who's always asking questions, quite inquisitive as a person. Little Miss, I'll let you fill in the blank. I hope you have a great weekend, guys. Hopefully be a bit nicer than this, and I will see you on Monday for another Mr. Parker's bedtime stories. And if you're in school, have a great time, and I will hopefully see you in a week and a bit's time. See you later, guys.